Joining us on the line is former Prime Minister and Likud party chairman Benjamín Netaniahu. Mr. Netanyahu, thanks for joining us.
Good evening.
With rising numbers of Israelis killed and wounded by Hezbollah attacks on the north of Israel, are you satisfied with the government's measures in dealing with this current conflict?
Well, I support the government's effort to defend the state of Israel against these deliberate terrorist attacks, the targeting of civilians with rockets. This is criminal, and it should be stopped. And so whatever measures the government takes in order to neutralize this Hezbollah attacks, of course I support it wholeheartedly.
Has Prime Minister Ehud been in touch with you personally to ask you to do your bit for the country and speak to international press?
I'm doing it, as you can see, and I've offered him unstinting support as long as he undertakes a vigorous policy against the terrorists, which he seems to be doing right now. He's talked to me a few nights ago. We're going to talk again tomorrow, so we talk from every few days.
Mr. Netanyahu, with Israel facing criticism from countries across the world for its current operations in Lebanon, how far can the state of Israel go without isolating itself in the international community?
I think the international community should recognize that Israel is doing, as in the bombing of the Ossi Iraq reactor, the destruction of Saddam Hussein's atom bomb factory. Israel is doing the international community a great service and being whipped for this in the process. We were widely condemned by the world for taking action against Saddam's nuclear reactor, which was on the verge of producing atomic bombs for Iraq. Imagine the world with Saddam Hussein armed with nuclear weapons. So Menachem Begin's government, 20-some years ago, did the world an enormous service. And yet Israel was condemned. Now, 2.5 decades later, everybody says, thank God Israel did this. And now we have the same situation. Here we have Hezbollah arming itself with deadly projectiles, deadly rockets, which could be used against anyone. In fact, could be used and probably will be used against neighboring Arab regimes. And they are breathing a sigh of relief, or will breathe a sigh of relief when Israel acts. Now, they won't say that publicly, but actually some of them have condemned Hezbollah publicly. Now, that's something. You know, when you have Arab governments lashing out at Hezbollah, you know they understand that what's involved is an Iranian action that is meant eventually to topple them. And so Israel is doing here something that the international community ought to support. It is defending its citizens against wanton criminal attacks. It is trying to minimize civilian casualties in the process, unlike the terrorists. And it is doing something that is strategically important for all the moderate and democratic countries in the world. The moderate Arab regimes here, the democratic regimes in the world, they have to understand that they are targets of Hezbollah and Iran as well. And so I think we've had enough of this cynicism, of this triple standard that we have now in the world. There's first standard for dictatorships, then a second standard for the democracies, and still a third standard for the one democracy, Israel, that is fighting for everyone else against the dictatorships, against the terrorists. And I think it's about time we stop that. Israel is doing the minimal thing that any country would do. If Paris were hit, you can be sure what the French government would do. You know, if they were sitting in bomb shelters in London, you can be sure what the British government would do. Same thing for any other country that is now condemning us in Europe. Any other country would do exactly the same. In my opinion, they do a lot more.
Benjamín Netaniahu, former Prime Minister and Likud party chairman, thank you for joining us on Info Live TV.
Thank you.